What's up, everybody? Eric here for IIWII Gaming. Today, I'm going to be doing our first podcast. So, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to be doing this. It's my first solo podcast. It's not going to be like one of my other episodes or anything else I put. Like, my first impressions and game reviews are usually scripted. This is kind of going to be off the cuff and just try to figure out what I'm going to do. I have a topic in mind, go with that topic, see what I can get out of it. My goal is to make these relatively short, about like 20 minutes long. I don't want to do anything super long. So today's topic is going to be the end of gaming for 2022, how I thought the year went, surprise games, anything like that I thought were really good or things like that. So let's just talk about 2022. It was definitely a weird year for gaming, if I were to say so myself. We had the Microsoft acquisition of Activision, and then Microsoft seemingly not being around in 2022 to take out any games. If I were to think 2022, Microsoft's not one of the ones I think of. When we think about Game of the Year for 2022, I think the big ones we think of are things like Elden Ring, God of War, and Horizon, and even Stray. What do those all have in common? They're all, three of those are on PlayStation, not on Xbox, with the exception of Elden Ring. So that's a weird spot for me to like just start off right there. Like, where was Xbox in 2022? It seems like they're gonna have a big impact in 2023, but let me save that for another podcast topic. Let's stick to just 2022 for right now. So it felt like 2022 wasn't a bad year by any stretch, but it just seemed like there was stuff missing in that year. So for that thing, I'll say it was a weird year in gaming. But let's just go right there talking about the top three games I just listed there. Elden Ring, God of War, and Horizon. I want to say for most people, they're going to say, yeah, those are probably the top games of the year in terms of AAA games. There was definitely little indie darlings here and there that I also thought were pretty good. So let's start off with me talking about my game of the year for 2022. Also, did I say start off twice? Either way. So 2022 game of the year for me. There's only two games that I personally think were 10s, and that's God of War and Elden Ring. I really liked Horizon, but it didn't seem like a 10 to me. It seemed more like an 8. There were some issues with it where it felt more of the same for Horizon Zero Dawn, and it had that middle game syndrome where it's like, I don't know, like, the ending felt like, oh, you guys are just setting up for your next game. You don't really have, like, the ending here, so I think that kind of hurt that game a little bit, but I still thought it was a great game. It was probably I got a platinum on that. I still haven't gotten the platinum in Ragnarok. I still haven't even fully finished Ragnarok or Elden Ring. Those two games are so massive, and I'm taking my time with each one of them that I haven't actually fully finished them, but I've played enough where I can actually say, to me, they're both 10s. There's enough there where I'm like, oh yeah, you can see all the care and energy that went into both those games, and which one did I think was actually the better game. So I know Game Awards and a bunch of other places, outlets have been giving Elden Ring Game of the Year, and I think it's well deserved. When you think about it, it's very unique. The only reason for me that I kind of knock it down, it's unique even within their own franchise of games. So like, if you see the other Souls game that they've developed, it's very different than all of them. It seems more, like I said, unique compared to the rest of them. It's not like they brought in like Dark Souls 1 and 2. Like, it's not a sequel. This is something new, but it's still in the exact same vein of what they've done before. But the story didn't, like, I didn't really care too much for it. And I'm one of those people, if you ever see my IIWII show movie reviews on the other channel, you'll see that story really matters to me, because I'm like, all right, what am I being invested in? Gameplay alone, I think gameplay is one of the most important parts of a game. But I also think story will keep you in. Something like, what was that game? It wasn't, the Guardians of the Galaxy game. I want to say that was 2021. I personally didn't think it was a great gameplay for that game. I was actually kind of bored with it because of the gameplay, but the story I thought was amazing. So the story a lot of times can like overcome a lot of issues with gameplay, and it can happen vice versa. With Elden Ring, I just felt like it didn't hit, for me calling it game of the year, it just didn't hit that mark that I needed. While with God of War Ragnarok, I gotta say that was my game of the year, just because I had an emotional connection with that game. That a lot of it might be because I've played all of them. I want to say the only one I haven't beaten was that one that had multiplayer in it. It wasn't one of the mainline one. It was like it was one of the sequels on, not sequels. It was a spin-off on PS3. I can't remember the name of it. Judgment? No. I don't even want to Google it, but either way, it was that. But all the rest of them, like, I felt like, oh, there was something important with all of them. And then there was this part in the game where they're having a conversation, and he mentions people from even like the PSP games, like his brother. He mentions his daughter, and he mentions all this other stuff. And I felt like with Kratos mentioning all that, I felt an emotional connection because I played those games. So to me, it was like, oh, you're bringing it all back. And to me, it was just like, okay, everything about this game was just amazing from start to finish. I did get a little bit annoyed with Atreus, but it felt like I'm supposed to get annoyed with him. That's what it felt like they were trying to get me to feel, because he was doing some douchey stuff. So, for me, God of War is my game of the year for 2022, with Elden Ring being like a close second. And when I say close second, I mean, like I said, this is like, all right, what did I prefer, gameplay over story? And the thing is, I love God of War Ragnarok's gameplay as well. So it's like, all right, when I think both of you have amazing gameplay, who gets the edge? For me, it was a story for Ragnarok that just put it over the edge for me. I could see why other outlets prefer Elden Ring because it's not a sequel. A lot of people are going to say that God of War is just more of the same. But to me, it felt like the storyline, the putting with different companions, that was all new things to add to that layer for that 2018 game. And even for Kratos' journey from back in PS2, I felt it was all there. So for me, I loved it. It's my game of the year. If it's not for you, I understand, but it was for me. So, well, I'll go with that. And now let's speak a little about some other games that I played in 2022, because I actually thought it was a great year for gaming. Just not one of the top years, just because, like I said, Xbox not really being there, kind of weird for me. So let's talk about a couple other games that I did play. It was also not the year where I played my most games, which was weird. So another game that I really enjoyed was Teenage Mutant Turtles Shredder's Revenge. I had a lot of fun with that game. I played it on Xbox Game Pass for PC, and it's a quick game. I think people say you can beat it in 3 hours. I wasn't close to beating 3 hours, but I'm not sure. I'm just maybe not as great in games as I thought I was. But I think I played like I beat it. I think it took me like 6-7 hours to beat, but I had a lot of fun. It's a game where I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. It's an old 2D beat 'em up that has a lot of spirit of the arcade game. So that was something interesting that I'm like, maybe something like this we wouldn't have seen years before, but now we're seeing more of it. So that was really cool. So that was one of my other top games. And that came out for all platforms. So if you want to check that out, I'd say go ahead. It's, like I said, for me, Xbox Game Pass is nice because I just pay usually like $100 a year. You're able to get deals on like the membership, so you're able to get it pretty cheap. Let's see, other games. Like I said, I didn't play as many games. I did play the 2 Pokemon games as well. So Pokemon Legends Arceus and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So let me just talk a little bit about those 2 Pokemon games. Legends Arceus, I'll give it credit for being so different from most mainline Pokemon games. It's not at all what I was expecting, but I had so much fun. I probably put in a good 40 hours into that game, and I still haven't gotten all the complete Pokedex, but it was so much fun because it was unique. There was things that you're not used to in Pokemon games. Like, usually the idea is just, you only need to catch every Pokemon once. It was like, no, here you're going to have to catch them multiple times. You're going to have to do this other stuff. It was a really good take on Pokemon that I was glad to see some of those mechanics make it into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But I just had a lot of fun. And that game came out early in 2022. I want to say, what was its release date? Sorry, just checking out the info right now. Sorry. It came out January of 2022. So this is one of the first games of the year right there. And if you didn't check it out, and the tough things that say, oh yeah, get it on a sale, but I always forget, Nintendo is notorious for not putting their games on sale. So the one problem with that game is that it's knocked down by the Switch's hardware. The Switch if you, oh, and I'll get to this more with Violet and Scarlet, but the Switch is so underpowered that a lot of games just don't look amazing on it, even though they probably should. And that's probably my only knock on the game, that its performance was lacking. But everything else was fun. The new forms for some Pokemon, and even some new Pokemon they had in it, I enjoyed it. Give it a shot. If you're someone like me that likes just playing Pokemon games, go for it. You're not going to be disappointed. All right, but yeah, that was one of the other games. And Pokemon Violet and Scarlet, those were the surprise when we found out that both those games were going to come out in the same year. It's like, when does Pokemon have 2 games out in 1 year? And I know people are going to say like, oh, well, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are 2 games. They're basically one game, just 2 different versions of one game. So that's the difference. Arceus is completely different region, everything. So having both of those in the same year was pretty cool. And both of them being open world, it was like, oh, Nintendo, you guys are actually trying to go forward with Pokemon in a great way. So, I played Scarlet. I haven't played Violet yet, but I mean, it's the same thing. I still have to get a review out for that game. I'm probably going to put this podcast out first before the review's out. I still need to do some B-roll and some things for that, but I'll get that out as soon as I can. I thought that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were really good, but the performance for them is horrendous, to the point where like it's crashed on me a couple times. But even though it was having so many performance issues, I was just having so much fun with it. It's one of the few games where I'm saying, if you just fixed the performance, that was like a 9 out of 10, probably. It would have been amazing. But the performance would take me out of it. And that's such a shame when you have gold right there. You struck gold. You found the Pokemon game we've all been wanting for so long, but the Switch either held it back or the developers just didn't do enough to make that game just look amazing, run amazingly. So that's my thought on those games. So let's see, I've talked about a couple games. Let me see other games that I've played. I also played Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, I think is the name. If you like the Lego Star Wars games, I think this is another one that you'd really enjoy. It was something really cool, 2022, and that was a game that kept getting delayed. I remember just waiting for that, and when I bought it around the same time as Elden Ring, because I didn't get Elden Ring at launch because of Horizon, because I wanted to get the Platinum for that. But it was just so much fun. I'm a big Star Wars guy. I actually have a Star Wars tattoo, so like, and it's my only tattoo at the moment. I'm gonna get a Zelda tattoo eventually, but all of the main Star Wars movies being in there, it was really cool just to be able to go through it all. Give it a shot if you can. I think it's on Game Pass now, so give it a shot. It was a fun game, and there's some other things from that where it just they changed up some of the gunplay and things like that. You could actually aim and do stuff. It just felt like they put a lot of work into it. And it's like, I'm hoping this is where the Lego games go forward. So, right now I've been talking about some of the games I've played. I played a surprise game that got me, was a game called High on Life. This was produced by Justin Roiland, so it's like a very Rick and Morty stylish, humor-wise, first-person shooter, and I had so much fun with it. It was just I wasn't expecting it. It's like, oh, Game Pass, and I keep hearing people were writing about it like on Facebook and other social media, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And I want to say like 20 minutes in, I was hooked in. I was like, okay, this is awesome. Especially since it's a first-person shooter that's a single player. We don't get too many of those like before. I want to say you get maybe 1 or 2 of those a year where it's like the primary focus of the game is single player. You don't get too many of those. So it was cool to get one like that. So yeah, those were, for me, my highlights. Oh, and Call of Duty, but I mean, it's Call of Duty. Call of Duty, it's mean to say, Call of Duty's generally always going to be good. A lot of times when we like knock it down, we're only knocking it down because we're comparing it to all the other Call of Duty games. So like if they have an off year where it's like, oh, it's not amazing or anything like that, it's because like, yeah, we're comparing it to the other Call of Duty games and this one just didn't live up to it. I want to say the last one that came out, Vanguard, I'm sure it's a good game, but it wasn't fully finished when it came out that I didn't buy it. Because I was really hoping for the zombies mode with that, and it wasn't ready at launch, so I kind of skipped that game. But yeah, Modern Warfare 2, from what I've been playing, I've been having fun with it. I'm not that great at multiplayer in this one. But I think that's also I skipped a year and things like that. But yeah, so those are like my highlights of 2022. There were some question marks for me where I just thinking like if a game isn't good for me, a lot of times I just stop playing right away. Or if I see bad reviews or anything like that, I just won't give it a shot. So like Gotham Knights, I finally did buy it, but I bought it in 2023. I haven't played it yet. But I saw so many things that I was like, I can't, in good conscience, I couldn't buy it at $70 just because it felt like it still needed to be refined. But I don't know, I do want to give it a shot. Like I said, I bought it, so now it's in my PS5. I just gotta go through and play it. And then, let me see, was there any other bad game? Nothing, I don't think, I'm trying to think if there was like a bad game that I was thinking about that I maybe didn't play. But I can't think of it off the top of my head. Like I said, sometimes I play stuff and I just put it down. There were some games that I skipped because I just didn't want to... I didn't know if I wanted to put the time into it. Like, I remember when I heard about Dying Light 2, and I really enjoyed Dying Light 1. But I remember hearing, like, saying, oh, there's 400 hours of content in it. And for some weird reason, hearing that it has so many hours of content was a big turnoff to me. And I didn't buy it for that reason. I was like, no, I don't have that kind of time on my hands anymore. If you're going to have a game like that, make it like 50 hours max so I can actually play it. If not, I'm going to find something else. And there was enough choice where I was like, it didn't really bother me. There was one weird thing last year that Sony did, and that was The Last of Us Part 1. So a remake to The Last of Us. The reason I put it in quotes is that when I think remake, I think, oh, you're completely redoing everything. And although some things look different, at least from what I've seen and what I've heard, it just seems like they just made The Last of Us prettier, and maybe they added some stuff here and there, but like the narrative is basically the same. And I don't know, when you're trying to do something like that, but yet you're still putting out the game at $70, to me, it's just like, sorry, Sony, that's kind of you being greedy. What you should have done is spent that money, made another game, something new, and made people play that. If you're just going to make people play remakes like that, that's kind of shitty, because you can still play Last of Us Remastered on a PS5, just doing it backwards compatible from the PS4 version. So to me, it was like, that was kind of that felt greedy to me. It didn't feel like you're trying to say, oh, let's show The Last of Us. That's not what it felt like to me. So yeah, I keep hearing that they might do something similar for Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm like, you don't need to. Horizon Zero Dawn runs well on a PS5, runs well on PS4. If people really want to play them, they can. Don't waste resources remaking these games that don't need to be remade. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on some stuff right there. Those are like my highlights, some of my low points of the year. I'm trying to think of anything else. There was a game, I didn't get to play Sifu, Stray, or Marvel Midnight Suns. I'm hoping maybe to get some time in that later this year to go back and play some of them. Last year was just a weird year for me that I wasn't able to get to everything that I wanted to. I'm hoping to be able to play some of them this year, but we'll see. In my next episode, we'll talk about the 2023 games and why Xbox, holy crap, they really put so much into this year that I'm like, I don't think everyone's going to play everything because there's just too much coming out for 2023. For 2022, let me just wrap stuff up. If I were to give the year like a score for the year in gaming, I'd say it was great. It wasn't amazing, so like I'd give it like an 8 out of 10 for the year. It's like, okay, we had the games that were there were bangers. The fact that we got, and I didn't even mention this game, Multiverses, which was a free-to-play fighting game that a lot of people were really into. I didn't really feel as connected to it as like some of my other friends. I don't know, fighting games for me, they're hit or miss. Sometimes I get really into them, sometimes I don't. But a lot of people were really into that game, so I was really happy for them. Let me see. So I thought it was a really good year for gaming. Like I said, great actually. We'll see what 2023 brings to us, but I'm actually going to stop this podcast now because the Chargers are about to start their playoff game and I don't want to miss that. All right, guys, I'll try to make another one of these videos soon. I'll try to put at least one video out a week going forward. Trying to keep them around this length. Maybe I'll make them a little bit shorter, maybe longer, depending on the week. I'll try to bring on some guests. Please like this video, comment down below what you guys thought of 2022 for gaming. Like I said, it was a great year. It needed something else. Please subscribe to the channel. Please check out some of the videos on our sister channel, IIWII Show. And yeah, thanks for watching, and talk to you guys soon. Have a good rest of your day.